Hey everyone, welcome back to the Revenue Growth Architects podcast. Crissy and Charlie here. And yeah, I just want to get straight to it. So I know for those of you who are like weekly active listeners, we've kind of changed our cadence for, how many podcasts we're releasing. And more recently, we've had a bit of a break or inconsistency. And there's actually a good reason for that. And that kind of segues into our main topic for today. So I don't know, Charlie, if you want to spill a little bit of why we haven't been coming to the podcast or been able to even record as frequently.
I mean, the short answer is there's just a lot. We've just been pretty busy with work. The longer answer is we've just got a lot of client work right now. Things have got really heated at the beginning of the year with like lots of new clients coming in, existing clients needing more. And that's where the segue comes into why we think that is and kind of our state of go-to-market ops as it relates to B2B SaaS companies. But we can get to that in a bit. So just a lot of just like onboarding, trying to work on like me and you a bit more in client engagements right now, because also we've had just at CS2 like tons of paternity leaves recently, where we've been covering the team. So we've been having to step in there a bit more and get our hands dirty and a lot of client engagement. So that's been keeping us really busy over the last few weeks. So I think, just a lot going on. And unfortunately, the podcast had to take, and also like maybe content in general for us. I know you've been posting a bit more on LinkedIn than I have, but in general, a little bit of a backseat right now while we just focus on that. And then the other side of it is, on top of the client work, is working a lot more on how can we just improve the client experience? How can we really just harness everything that's good about CS2 and what we do and just like focus on just like making it even better, leaning into the stuff that we do really well, focusing the team, just getting everything just like humming along really nicely at the beginning of this year, while demand is just like going crazy and we've got, more clients than we've almost ever had, right? So but we do want to keep the podcast going, obviously, and we do want to keep on putting out content. It's just, there's always seasons, right? There's ups and downs with the amount of volume you can put out there on the content side.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this, recording since 2019. So it's been a long time. And so keeping
that's
level,
6 years, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we made our first episode.
More than half a decade.
Yeah. So, it's challenging to come with that consistency and excitement and rigor. And so we're always kind of thinking like, what is the best things we should do to show up that way? And so, switching up our formats, but also just really thinking thoughtfully of like, okay, only showing up when we know it's gonna be a good podcast and good relevant podcast. And that's hard when you're focusing so much on demand that's coming through from the team. So,
and for the parents out there, we've got a 5-year-old that just started school, and then we have a young kid who turned 2. And I think for anyone that's had kids, turning 2 is definitely a change in terms of like how much work they are, how much there is to deal with there. Obviously, we have support, like childcare and stuff like that, which is obviously amazing and very helpful. But then, makes you a little bit more tired than maybe you were before. So add into that the demands from work that are constantly shifting and evolving. Podcast been a bit inconsistent, but we'll get back to it.
The good news there is we have seen actually a big uptick in kind of inbound demand and people reaching out to CS2 and needing go-to-market ops help. And, it's a little bit of a change compared to last year where I think, some companies were looking for maybe like a project or were very like judicious around like, we want to do this one thing, but being very cautious. Where right now it's like we got inbound coming through and it's like, we need help with this, and this. And a lot of it is still those same things, but they're looking for more. And there's just been an uptick in that. And so we were trying to think through, well, that's kind of interesting considering right now there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, with all the tariffs and everything. Everyone's worried about the recession. Yet there's still this high demand for go-to-market ops work. So what is the reason for it? We have some ideas, especially from what we're hearing from prospects. And I know Charlie hears a lot of that on the front lines because he handles all of our sales calls, and he's their sales. So what do you think is part of that reason, Charlie?
I mean, there's probably 10 reasons that we can unpack on the podcast. So thinking about like the macro, like, yes, there's been this kind of, people call it like the tech winter, or this budgets getting slashed, layoffs, etc. over the last couple of years, over like 2022ish, 2023, and from our point of view, we're a small team, so we rode those waves, like, or those kind of like ups and downs are pretty okay. But definitely during that time, like you said, clients coming in, they wanted us like do a 2-month project, or they're like really budget conscious, and they want like the world for like no cost,
nothing.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is those 2 years, those 2 years go by, and then all of the work that needed to happen either happened in a way that, like, just practically, like the builds in the marketing automation platform, the builds in Salesforce, the integrations, the setup, the analytics, the reporting, all of that just maybe wasn't done right, because they either like laid off their internal team, they didn't hire the internal team enough, so the internal team was just scraping through, being able to maybe just get some campaigns out the door, but not building the process to actually report on them and a solid process to be able to even execute them. They maybe weren't spending as much money on companies and consultants like us to come in and build out architecture. But that stuff accumulates, right? I think I remember at the beginning we were like, okay, I think tech debt's going to explode, because there's probably loads of people, there's like all these layoffs going to happen, and just stuff's just going to not get built right. And I think kind of been proven right, because now 2 years later, they've still got the same problems. They've maybe been trying to solve those problems for 2 years, but not putting the right budget into them. And then that then means that they're left with a situation where they're behind. They don't have the reporting they need. The board's asking them questions. They're trying to execute. Maybe they've got like an AI play for their products. Their business is actually starting to perform really well, and they're starting to get more customers, but then the whole process isn't working as well. So now I think it's just the pain budget will go towards pain, to solving pain, right? So if the pain gets so big, I think the budget gets there, right? And I think that's what we're experiencing at the beginning of this year. It's like, okay, a lot of companies coming in going, look, we've been trying to solve these problems for such a long time. We have all of these issues. Like, we actually have to solve them now, like we can't leave it any longer. The analogy I'll use, I love house analogies for different reasons with what we do, but it's like the housing market, right? House prices are crazy expensive in a lot of major parts of the US. But like the pent up demand for those homes is so high that eventually, like, people still buy homes, right? Because it's like, it doesn't matter the price is so high, because there's just so much demand. Like, this has been waiting for so long to get onto the housing ladder. It's like the same thing. There's been so much that has been needed to be built for these companies that it just gets so intense that they're just like, we have to put the budget into it now. Let's go. And then they call CS2 or other companies like us, or maybe they hire. Things happen, and they start to try and invest in these problems. So that's the big one, I think.
Yeah, I think we kind of called that one. I think too, people, when they do like layoffs, or they also, there's a bit of time where they then, make the team smaller. Then they realize like, oh, there's like a lot of glue that was happening from those people. Like, they're just like the people holding up like the, like a cheerleader up at the top, but there's still all the people below. And I think people don't realize, like, you remove one of those people and things can just like, fall down. And a lot of the time that is the fragile state of operations for a lot of companies, is that they just didn't have the infrastructure, or there's a lot of like manual work being done, or things like that. And so once they realize that, because that person's no longer there, then they have like these oh shit moments of like, wait, but what about all this reporting that I would get monthly? Oh, we're all seeing all these issues with data. Oh my gosh, our HubSpot and Marketo is a mess, or and then that then becomes a bunch of projects. And I think right now too, there is a lot of pressure on people are realizing like, yes, go to market ops is important, but even more so because they're wanting to do all these like new things around like leveraging AI and doing more outbound plays and things like that. And like, who do they need to actually do that? And also, what do they need? Like, you can't do the more advanced things unless you focus on the basics. So, yeah, I think that all just comes to the surface and they realize, oh, we still need to invest. And yeah, maybe they're not going to go out and hire a bunch of people again. But I do think I see people getting hired. Like I've actually seen like, when you get like alerts of like people have new roles and stuff like that, I see that happening more frequently now. So I do think it's even investing back into the right people to do the job too.
Yeah, so the thing that is really interesting about anything that people might think of as like the basics is that the basics aren't easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the foundation and the fundamentals doesn't mean they're easy. It's like, but like I think some people think they're synonymous. It's like, okay, like I just need to get the basics set up. That should be easy. I should do that in a week. I should do that in a couple of weeks. But the crazy thing is, one, it's definitely not easy. There's a lot of things to think about. Even when you think about things like, okay, how do we set up our Salesforce campaign structure? How do we do our lead sourcing? How do we do our sales handoff process, our routing? How do we collect data in our marketing automation platform and process it through to be able to get it to sales? That stuff is the basics, foundation, but it's not easy. And the thing that makes it so much harder, which is another reason why I think, the more people are trying to speak to us, is that the longer you run as a company without the fundamentals and the basics in place, the harder it gets to get them built, right? I'll maybe do another house analogy. It's like, okay, imagine you start building your house and you're building it all wrong. And then you go move in and you're a family of 4 and you go move into this kind of built all house by yourself. It's all built wrong. You got issues with it everywhere. But you're living in it now. And then you wait a couple of years and things start breaking. And then you go, actually, now I need to remodel it. But you're still going to live in it. And now, all the plumbing was done completely wrong. So then to be able to redo the plumbing, you've got to tear down walls and now you don't have a wall, or like stop your bathroom working. So you have to have a porta potty for your kids. Like that is exactly the same thing with go-to-market ops. It's like, okay, now you've got 25 salespeople, you've got, 10 marketing people, you've got partner marketing people, you've got partners going on, and like, that's not even that big of a company. But you've got all of this janky processes that aren't working. And now we've got to come in and rebuild it all while making sure that the stuff you are reliant on, you can still have. And also the workflows and the processes that the team are currently doing don't get completely broken.
Yeah.
Because you're like trying to sell and all that kind of stuff. So one client that I'm working with right now, this is a longer story, but I'll kind of try and keep it short. They had HubSpot Map, HubSpot CRM. They decided to move to Salesforce CRM before they started working with CS2. And when they did that, they just made the decision not to use the out-of-the-box sync between HubSpot and Salesforce and use an iPaaS tool to do the sync.
I think people are cringing right now.
Some leads, which meant like nothing was coming from sales, and it would only go in one direction from HubSpot to Salesforce, and nothing would go the other way. And then other leads that were going into HubSpot wouldn't go into Salesforce. They weren't getting like really any data other than just like the contact. Anyway, there's a lot more to talk about there, but now we're trying to get the sync working. And there's like so many things in the way of just getting the sync, the out of the box sync, because you've got this other process working, the way they're doing the sales handoff. Now, if we just start syncing the systems, all the contacts from HubSpot will start syncing and start going into all the salespeople queues. So we need to fix that. All their assignment logic is not built out in the best way, like because what they've been doing for the last year or so is like one person's been essentially manually assigning all of the new contacts in Salesforce. So trying to unpack that, and we're trying to do it before this event next week. And so you had like a few weeks to just essentially like rebuild everything to try and just get the sync working, which would have been just like something you could do in a day at the beginning. But now it's like a multi-week project. Just an example of just like you try and make these quicker decisions in the moment to go with like the easy option, but actually it bites you several months later or even several years later when you're like, okay, now because we did this, we're having to do manual assignments. Some of the contacts aren't in the system. It's just, and you try and unpack that, and it's just so much harder once you've been operating in a bad way and for so long.
I think also that kind of, I know people like companies in the past have asked me like, when should I hire a MOPS person? And I'm like, as soon as possible, like as soon as you can afford them.
Today,
especially if you're VC backed, because it just pays dividends. You could maybe hold on to that one really good ops person for a long time, but if you're just having like a demand gen person trying to, fumble their way around, or you're not setting up the processes from the start, like it just is harder and it takes more time. You're gonna have to pay for more experts to undo everything. And so like I think it's an investment in the future. Like it just is. So if you do have the money, like hire a really intelligent, like good person from the start, and then grow into that, and I think that is the right way to think about it. But
things
I think we have to be real,
right?
yeah.
Like things compound in either direction. Like there's people talk about compound interest with finances being one of the most powerful things ever. I think in this case, compounding can work in either a positive direction where you hire the right person, you get the right expertise, and then you've got a really good foundation and setup. There's just kind of constantly paying you those dividends and improving over time. And then you're building on a good platform each time and things get better. And now you want to use AI and you can, right? Because you've got good data. The opposite happens where you haven't been doing that and things just get so bad that if like the client that I'm talking about wants to do all these cool AI workflows, it's like, well, no, you've got to do like 6 months of work to get anywhere close to that, just to be able to, have some of your data flowing correctly and being in a better place to do anything fancy, right? Back to your point of like trying to do advanced stuff without the foundation.
In the same realm. So one of the things also that we'll hear from clients now too is like, oh, we just want to do this one thing. We want to do this Power BI dashboard where we can see our funnel metrics, attribution, our paid media.
It's easy, right? You could set that
and they're
up
like,
over
so
a
you
weekend.
can do that one little project for us, right? I'm like, you just basically said like 25 projects, because okay, yes, we can if you just have all that data perfectly ready to pipe into Power BI. But if it's not, then there's so much work that goes into that, and we need to educate more, like the company, and around like some things that seem simple are just not simple. Because a lot of times too, because they're not communicating that, they don't realize how much work is going behind the scenes. So they're frustrated and wondering like, why can't we do XYZ? It's like,
yeah, how do we do that? How do we get them to someone who hasn't lived it to understand?
I think it's challenging, but I think maybe over communicating a bit more than we think we should. Like, and I think opening those pathways for getting that information out. I feel like it was a lot harder. It's a lot harder now with remote teams. I know people are going back into the office, but I feel like almost like we rely so much on asynchronous communication, email being sent out, and everyone thinks that they're communicated to. Where before when I worked in house, like teams are meeting in the same room. Like the sales team would invite marketing on to like, hey, talk about what's going on recently. And I feel like I even did that with mobs projects and stuff. And I would actually communicate like, this is what went into this. Like, and this is what we're doing. This is why it's valuable. And this is how it's going to make your life easier. I think even if you don't do that for sales, like you need to do that to the go-to-market team and let them know like what is actually involved into all the stuff that you do. And then also that's, powerful for getting resources. Because
Yeah.
if you're saying, hey, I haven't had the time to do XYZ. So because of that, I've been spending manual time and hours that could be used to go elsewhere to do all of that. Like, uh, I think for executives, where they also act fast is when they hear inefficiencies. Like, show them all the inefficiencies, and inefficiencies breed inefficiencies. It's not like a lot of the time, because you can't get to those things, it just means you have more inefficiency because you're just
Yeah.
enabling the inefficiency to
Oh,
happen.
that reminded me of the thing that we were talking about on the walk the other day that I think I was trying to think of earlier. It's like um, the everyone's rushing to AI to be more efficient, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's hilarious to me because it's like, okay, we need to have this like super fancy AI thing doing this
Mhm.
crazy thing so we can save like a few hours of this workflow. Great, awesome. Most companies could probably save, I'm going to throw out a number. This isn't going to be very scientific. 10x more time with the most basic processes, right?
Yeah.
That do not involve AI at all, right? Like, for
Mhm.
example, just like the Salesforce campaign setup or something, just having like
Yeah.
clonable templates for that and
Mhm.
types and statuses that make sense. And then there's like workflows in your marketing automation platform to like add people to the right campaign at the right time. Like so many
Right.
companies that don't even have that. And they're spending hours just trying to decide on how to do that each time, manually importing lists into places. And it's like, meanwhile, the CEO is like, we've got to push AI to try and be more efficient. And it's like,
Mhm.
there's like this huge amount of efficiency that can come from just like the most basic stuff. And like, but that gets completely ignored right now because it's not, well, maybe it doesn't get completely ignored. There's companies still focusing on it actually. And that's part of what we're talking about this podcast actually. Companies are actually, maybe some companies are realizing we just need to get this stuff set up. But I think from like the C level, there's still a lot of
C-level,
like,
yeah.
yeah, pushing like the AI front when I think we need to educate them. Like, there's a lot of opportunity. Like if you're looking for efficiency, it doesn't have to just be AI. Great, do that. But there's a plenty of hours saved from just doing the most basic of improvements that
Yeah.
don't even touch AI.
Yeah, for sure. I think,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like you can't, there's no such thing as a simple project, is kind of what I'm saying. Like a lot of the time, unless you do have a bunch of the foundation set up, then yeah,
Well,
simple
exactly.
things can end up on your plate because they're simple to do once you have the process to support it, once you have the foundation to support it. And that's the thing. You want to get into that perfect like Goldilocks zone. But a lot of people either try to fast forward to the sophisticated without focusing on the foundation, or they just don't have the foundation. They're just stuck and they just don't even know how they can get to the next two phases.
Yeah.
And you need to get to that perfect place first. Like you can't bypass. Like this is like you can't not be in that like once you get the foundation and things are easier and working. And that's the only time where you can then layer on and add more anything more sophisticated.
Yeah, I think to maybe counteract what part of what we've been saying, things can be easy if you do it
Mhm.
at the right time. Like timing is everything. It's
Timing,
like
yeah.
if you're, you know, a 5-person company and you're trying to set up HubSpot and or Salesforce, you know, and you set it up perfectly at the beginning, that's going to be easy to do it then, right? Relatively
Yeah,
easy.
it is, yeah,
And
because
then it's
we've
easy
done
to
it
do.
and it's
Yeah,
easy.
exactly. But like, it's all timing. If you wait too long, then it's hard. And I think to the point where we're talking about how can we educate, C-level and other people on how these projects are hard. You wouldn't need to educate them on how the projects are difficult and need a lot of expertise if you were doing it a bit earlier, right? Like you just need to educate them on the value of doing it at that point. So yeah, that's kind of the trade-off here and the complicated part because, and like we've talked about, things are so much easier when you do it at the right time. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. And back to the original point around us talking about there's a lot of companies out there that are now really trying to solve some of these problems that they've really put on the back burner the last couple of years. I think they're realizing that they've maybe left it too late and now it's hard, and they need to get some expertise to really help them get it across the line, because they've been operating with a lot of inefficiency for too long now.
That's it, I think, for this week. So, yeah, that's the kind of state of what's going on. And we'll be back on our next episode to talk through some more topics, probably more forward-thinking things, like what we're seeing out there, what's happening with tech and so forth. So thanks for everyone for listening along and, like we said, dealing with the schedule. But we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.